Psychology says we need to feel a sense of control. But theology says God is in control. And that's what we see in this text. Here we find a woman in Shunem. Historically, she has been mostly known by way of description as the Shunammite woman. Now, she and her husband, the Bible says, have developed a very close relationship with a man of God by the name of Elisha. It was during his travel that Elisha would find different homes to stop by in order that he might find both shelter and sustenance. Well, the record is that this Shunammite woman and her husband have taken such a liking to Elijah that not only did they provide him a meal, but they went through the trouble of building him a room on their house so that whenever he came to town, if the Sheraton was sold out, if the Hilton was overbooked, if the Holiday Inn had no room, it did not matter because he knew he had a place to call home. Well, the Bible says as a result of their incredible kindness and hospitality, Elisha decides that he wants to bless them in appreciation for the blessing they've been to him. So he says to his servant Gehazi, he says, I want to bless this woman. And the servant says, well, the woman is barren. She has been unable to have a child. Now, in order for you to fully appreciate the significance of that little detail, you must understand what it meant for a woman to be childless in the first century. Now, according to the social mores of that particular era, that meant that the family name could not go forward. But not only that, without a son, and if she had the misfortune of outliving her husband, this woman could potentially face years as a widow without a provider or a protector. It is the first century historian Josephus and countless others who revealed to us that more often than not, when women found themselves in this particular predicament, more often than not, they were forced into prostitution as a means of caring for themselves. So Elijah comes along and says, absolutely not. I will not allow it to be this way. I will not have this woman to support the purpose and plans of God and then not bless her in return. So he says, I'm going to make sure she has a son. So Elijah comes, watch this now, and he places a prophetic pronouncement on her life. He says to her, by this time next year, you will hold a son in your arms. Now, please don't miss the intentional particularity that he uses. He does not simply say, you're going to have a baby. He does not say, one day you're going to give birth. He does not say, I'm praying for you that you get pregnant. He says, by this time next year, you will have a son that you will hold in your arms. This woman is barren and her husband is old. He says to her, by this time next year, you're going to rock your son in your arms. This woman is barren and her husband is old. But he says, by this time next year, you're going to have a baby in your arms. Can I tell you what he was really saying to her? What he really said is, if you go home and work on it, you can have it. Let's get to the journey. The Bible says that they went home and they went to work on it. Watch this now. Then the Bible says that God opens up her womb. But this is where the text takes a drastic turn. After God opens the womb and blesses the womb, the Bible says that the child grows up and dies. The child that has served as the touchable, tangible evidence of God's grace, that child is dead. The child that serves as affirmation of the fact that God will do just what he said, that child is dead. Come here. Honest moment. Have you ever had moments in your life where it seemed as if God didn't keep his word? Don't get all super sanctified on me now. I mean, have you ever had moments in your life that the only reason you didn't call God alive because you were scared of what God might do? Come on, doctor. Hello, somebody. I mean, have you ever had moments in your life where God spoke something, it came to pass, but before you could shout about it, it was already gone? I'm trying to talk to the real folk. I mean, have you ever had moments where you wanted to say to God, God, you could have given me a little more time to enjoy it? I mean, God, I never thought I would have had it in the first place. So why would you tease me by giving it to me and then taking it from me before I could even enjoy it? So the Bible says the child dies. The boy dies. She takes him to the man of God. She lays him on the bed. Don't miss this now, because this is where the title comes from. Boy dies. Takes him to the man of God. She lay him on the bed. Boy dies. Takes him to the man of God. She lay him on the bed. Boy dies. She take him to the man of God. She lay him on the bed. I said, the boy dies. She take him to the man of God. And she lay him on the bed. Say it one more time. The boy dies. I mean, for real dead. The boy dies. She take him to the man of God. And she lays him on the bed. Here it is. Are you ready for it? Here it is. When it's too much for you to handle, you got to learn how to hand it over. You get what I said? When it's too much for you to handle, you got to learn how to hand it over. See, the reason part of us are frustrated right now is you're trying to hold on to it. You got to hand that thing over. Hand that job over. Hand them kids over. Hand that money over. Hand that health over. Whatever it is that's bothering you, hand that thing over. When I looked at this text, it didn't take me long, Monica, to figure out what she did. Can I tell you why? Because before I ever read a book on systematic theology, when I didn't know who Walter Brueggemann was, who was, of course, a scholar on the Old Testament, before I knew who Brueggemann was, I was a child in the True Vine Missionary Baptist Church. I wish I had somebody in New Hart, Arkansas, where we had service on the first and the third Sunday. Miss Mamie Hicks was over the choir. Y'all praying with me? Joyce Murray was on the piano. And every so often, she would start patting her foot and hitting that piano. Miss Mamie Hicks would walk up to the microphone and she'd say something like this here. That problem that I had, I just couldn't seem to solve. I prayed and I prayed. I kept getting deeper involved. I turned it over to Jesus. I stopped worrying about it. Gave it over to him. He worked it out. I come to tell you that Jesus, if you let him, Jesus, if you let him, that pain that would not move. I had been praying in the upper room, that burden that I bore. I said, Lord, how much more? I turned it over to Jesus, and I stopped worrying about it. I gave it over to the Lord, and he worked it out. I come to tell you that Jesus, that problem that I had, I just couldn't seem to break. I pray and I pray. Lord, don't let it be too late. I gave it over to Jesus. I stopped worrying about it. I gave it over to the Lord and he worked it out. Come to tell you that see, they won't let me sing at St. Paul. But at the True Vine Missionary Baptist Church, I can sing that song. But watch this. That ain't the shout. That ain't the shout. I'm done, but here comes the shout. Take him in the room. Melvin, she handed him over. She walked out, closed the door. I believe. Marla, she was standing outside the door, maybe pacing back and forth. All of a sudden, she heard a few minutes later, she said, she looked at Gehazi and said, Gehazi, I think Elijah got a cold. He said, no, ma'am. He ain't got no cold. She said, somebody got one. Because I hear somebody that's sneezing. I wish I had somebody. Gehazi said, well, I know it ain't Elijah. It ain't but two folk in there. So if it ain't Elijah, I wish I had somebody. So if it ain't Elijah, it can't be nobody but your baby. Can't work it out. If you let me, can't work it out. Gave it over to the Lord, he worked it out.